So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can commence the proceedings for this evening. Welcome to this talk, the Viraasat series of talks that Heritage Trust has come to. And it's important to note that this is the 40th year of the existence of the trust. And for I think it's been quite a journey. I'm sure some of you are aware about the journey of the 40 years, and one of the projects we intend to take up this year is to actually document the history of heritage. So we are hoping to get somewhere with that. A little bit about the trust. Started in 1984 by concerned citizens, as probably most of you are heard this. And which activities which started with primarily with Chapanet, culminated in the nomination of Chapanet as a UNESCO World Heritage City. And over the past few years, with the change in the environment and the way heritage is managed around the country, we have been striving to find relevance as to what the trust activities need to be and what we need to do. As part of that rediscovery of the process, I think sensitizing people towards the heritage, and typically for us, the heritage of Baroda and surroundings is the primary role. And the series of Viraasat lectures that we have is part of that program. Over the past few years, we have now initiated various projects. The one which is ongoing currently is the signage project, wherein we have identified close to 100 buildings, or more than 100 buildings actually, which we are placing signages in front of those buildings, which include content in English and Gujarati, along with the QR code, which takes you to the VFC website and gives you more information about those buildings. Through that, we hope that there is a pride in what the citizens feel, the ordinary citizens feel about the heritage which we feel is getting lost. And with those signages, we hope that a certain visibility comes across to those structures. Now, heritage, of course, is not just about the built heritage. I think there is a lot of heritage in Baroda in terms of the intangible elements. And we are also now coming out with a series of documentaries about various heritage aspects of Baroda, two of which are already done. One is about the churches of Baroda, the other one was Baroda Central Library. We've done those in collaborations with different institutes, and we hope that over the coming years, we'll be able to have a few more going along. Also, we had initiated through the efforts of some of the members here, projects for school children, because we think that it's important that children get sensitization about heritage at the right age, and a few of them will then grow up to understand and appreciate the heritage of the city itself. That's enough about the trust itself. Coming a little bit more to the topic of relevance today. Remembering Baroda's freedom fighter, the giant old man of Gujarat, as he was called, Mr. Abbas Tyabji. I won't go too much into details about him. What I had to read out is probably also what you have read when you saw the poster for this event. Just a little bit about our speaker today, Mr. Anil Nauriya. He's an advocate in the Supreme Court and a renowned author, and member of the governing body of the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Smarak Trust, founder trustee of Mahavir Tyagi Foundation for Political and Economic Decency, senior fellow, or rather, former senior fellow at the Nehru Memorial Museum, and a trustee of the Abbas Tyabji Educational and Charitable Trust. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Anil Nauriya to the Gujarat.
Thank you, Sameer bhai. Is that on? You can hear? All of you can hear what I'm saying. Well, it's an honor to be here. Abbas Tyabji is buried in Mussoorie, Landore, side hill of Mussoorie. And I belong to Dehradun, which is 22 miles from Mussoorie. So Abbas Tyabji has been a long-term interest of mine, and it has been my ambition to come to Baroda someday and look up sites associated with Abbas Tyabji, and I'm very glad that your institution has enabled me to do this. Now, to come straight away to Abbas Tyabji, let me start. What I will do is, we have put together some slides. Originally, they were contributed by a great-granddaughter of Abbas Tyabji. Her name is Saman Habib. She's a scientist and she works in Lucknow. And then we have played around with those, added some of our own material, and made a slideshow. What I propose to do is to give a brief introduction right in the beginning, very, very brief, and then go on to the slides, and then in the course of that slideshow, intersperse it with my talk. So I hope it will be possible to do all this in the short time that we have. Sriparna, can we start with the first? Now, this is a photograph of Abbas Tyabji, who was born in Cambay on 1st February 1854, and he died in Mussoorie on 9th June 1936. That is 11 years before independence. He had already come to be known as the grand old man of Gujarat. He retired as the Chief Justice of the Baroda High Court when it was a princely state in 1913. In 1913, he had entered the judicial service of Baroda in 1879 after having qualified at Lincoln's Inn in England as a barrister. And he first entered the district, he served as a district judge in some of the districts of Baroda state. He was a district judge of Amreli, rose to be a high court judge, and retired as Chief Justice, as I said, in 1913. It is after that he joined the overall national struggle, becoming a very close associate of Mahatma Gandhi. He went to prison in India's struggle for freedom. And the remarkable thing about Abbas Tyabji is that throughout the period of his life after retirement from the Baroda High Court, he was associated with every movement started after that. So in 1917, within a few days before the Russian Revolution, there was a conference, social conference and a political conference in Godhra. Mahatma Gandhi came for that. Bal Gangadhar Tilak came for that also. And Abbas Tyabji took part in that. And a major decision was taken, among various decisions were taken. One of those was to fight untouchability. So that conference Abbas Tyabji attended in Gujarat as early as 1917, that is within a few years of his retirement. He had already been associated with the Home Rule movement of Annie Besant and become nationally known but it is in the years following that he became a household name throughout India. We will now come to that. Next slide. Now, if you look at the who's who publications of the early years of the 20th century, you find most of them have references to figures associated with the British Raj. But very few of those early who's who refer to those who were participating in the freedom movement. Now, this who's who was published by a man called Vaman P. Kabadi. I think the year of publication is 1935, and he gives a write-up on Abbas Tyabji and how he has jumped into the national struggle and how he has been associated with the non-cooperation movement and with all the movements that came after. Now, you will find he refers to the non-official commission appointed by the Indian National Congress to inquire into the Punjab disturbances. Now, this happened soon after the Vadodara conference, when the Rowlatt legislation was brought by the British government. When the Rowlatt legislation was brought forward by the British government in 1919, Gandhiji had called for an All India Hartal, and that Hartal took place on 6th April 1919. What was unique about that Hartal? There have been Hartals before and after, but what was unique about that Hartal was that it was the first All India protest on a democratic rights issue in the history of the subcontinent. And after that, it unnerved, obviously, the colonial regime, because Hindus, Muslims, and all communities were united, showed a great deal of unity in this Hartal. So soon thereafter, within a week of the 6th April Hartal, you had the incident at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar, when there was a massacre on an unarmed crowd, which incident shook up the nation. 2 days later, within the next 2 days, there was air bombing in Gujranwala. Gujranwala is now in Pakistan. And the air bombing that took place in Gujranwala was the first, perhaps the first air bombing in Asia by any colonial power or neo-colonial power. Iraq, Vietnam bombings that took place there in the latter half of the 20th century and the early part of the 21st century were way ahead in the future, but Gujranwala preceded that, and simultaneously martial law was imposed in Punjab. Martial law was imposed, there were many incidents throughout Punjab. This was followed by the appointment of two committees. One was a British appointed committee because there were protests even in England. So the Hunter Committee was appointed in England, and there was a non-official committee appointed by the Indian National Congress, on which Abbas Tyabji served as a member, and there was M.K. Gandhi, there was initially Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das, K. Santaram, and persons of that caliber. Now, that on that committee, Abbas Tyabji was the senior-most legal person, because one must remember that he was very close to Gandhiji, but he was 17 years elder to Gandhi. 17 years. Because he was born in 1854. So about, you would say 15 years elder to Gandhiji. And he was the senior most legal person in that committee. And since entry to Punjab was banned, and few lawyers were available, few legal persons or public activists were available within Punjab because of the great deal of repression, you had to have people from outside Punjab to go and investigate. And you could not go, entry into Punjab was not allowed until August. In fact, although there is an official figure of 379 odd persons who were killed and some, I think 1,000 other casualties, that's the official figure. But counting did not start until August. So actually we do not really know what the Jallianwala Bagh figure was. And some people in the Punjab University have studied this question, and they place the figure much higher, the death roll at 1,000 and injuries at a much higher level. But at this point in time, one can only speculate. And this incident, therefore, could be inquired into by the non-official committee, of which Abbas Tyabji was a leading figure, only from August 1990. And these persons went to Punjab and started documenting what had happened. They took more than 600 individual statements from affected persons throughout Punjab. Each statement is countersigned, each statement is taken in the presence of a member of the committee. So you can imagine the strain that members of the committee had going around Punjab at that time, collecting all this information. It has been published in a two-volume report, which came out. It came out in March 1920. So you can imagine, from August 1919 they start collecting materials, and by March 1920 the report is ready and published. So this report, by the way, in order to have it published, what was done was that it was the second volume, which contained these 600 statements. This was given to multiple presses in Bombay to print. So pages, say 1 to 200 given to one press, pages 201 to 400 given to another press, and so on. And published, then bound together and published and brought out in record time. One does not hear nowadays of, one does not hear of reports which come out so fast, quite. So this was the achievement of this report, and in the course of this work, Abbas Tyabji was his health was considerably affected, and he had some heart issues that arose in the course of this moving around. So now we come to the next slide. This actually was an earlier slide, because this is from Cambay, where he was born, and this clock tower was built in Cambay about 20. It was 1891, so about say. This. Can you all hear me? I can't be heard? Wait, I'm sorry. So all that I spoke was lost?
The mic should be exactly in the front leg.
All right, it's fine. So, because I have often to look in that direction, and so I may not be speaking exactly in the... Perhaps some of you could come forward, because it may happen that sometimes when I'm looking in this direction, I'm not speaking into the mic. Now, this was built a few decades after Abbas Tyabji's birth in Cambay. Can we move on to the next? Now, this is a slide. Abbas Tyabji had a modern mind. He combined his liberalism with the modern scientific spirit. So here he is taking the children of his family when bubonic plague had broken out in India. He takes his children to be vaccinated. And you find him in that first picture, right in the middle with that white kurta and black achkan. You find him right in the middle. I wonder if you can make him out. And here in this picture on the side, he is at the extreme right. He is at the extreme right. And his daughter, one of his daughters, is being vaccinated by the famous scientist Hafkin himself. Hafkin is vaccinating Abbas Tyabji's daughter. Can we go to the next? This is Amina was his second wife. Amina happened, by the way, to be Badruddin Tyabji's daughter. The Badruddin Tyabji, one of the early presidents of the Congress. So it is with Amina. This photograph. It's an old print, so you may not see it very clearly. Abbas Tyabji is sitting this side, and Sharifa, his eldest daughter, is playing the veena. And Rehana, his next daughter, is sitting on the floor. That's Rehana. And the photograph is from Baroda in 1905. We went around Baroda to locate where he might have lived. And we located the general area. It was known as Baroda Camp. And it is, I suppose, behind where you have Abbas Tyabji Road. We will come to that. So next slide, please. This is the present building of the High Court of Baroda when it was a princely state. It is well preserved, but it is not functional now. And this is where, obviously, Abbas Tyabji sat when he was a judge of the Baroda High Court, and later Chief Justice before he retired in 1913. This building is now empty. It is in the charge of, I understand, the municipality. And what they wish to do there, we do not know. I heard that there is going to be a museum there, but your foundation has put up a plaque, intends to put up a plaque here. They have already put up a plaque in the court opposite, which was built in 1950, the criminal court. But this court was built at the end of the 19th century. And this is where Abbas Tyabji would have sat as the judge of the Baroda High Court. A very ornate building, outwardly very well preserved. We could not go inside, so I cannot say more about it, but it's a very imposing building and from outside in excellent condition, apparently. Next slide, please. I may mention that, going back to the previous, that we were trying to get hold of judgments which Abbas Tyabji might have delivered as a judge. And we did go around looking for some libraries where there might be law reports of the time. So it would be interesting to see the kind of judgments he delivered as Judge and Chief Justice of the Baroda High Court. We know that he was a man of very high legal reputation and also rectitude. So his judgments would be of great interest. Now, this photograph, this slide, is of a calendar which was published in 1923. You can see the heading on top. Indian Patriots Calendar 1923. Now Abbas Tyabji is in the second column, 8th from the top. 8th from the top, circled red. You can't see the other faces clearly, but by 1923 he is a man who is a national figure, who is figuring on calendars prepared as early as the early part of the 20th century. Now let me therefore tell you a little about what Abbas Tyabji's significance was in the period since the 1919 report, which was published in 1920, and the time when this calendar was published. You know, when Gandhiji, in the year following publication, in the year following the incident in Punjab, Jallianwala Bagh in 1919, he proposed non-cooperation, and the non-cooperation movement was founded on three major issues. One was Swaraj, one was rectification of the Punjab wrongs, which was also related to the Rowlatt legislation. And the third was Khilafat, which related not just to the question of the caliphate in Turkey, but also to the fact that Indian troops were being made to fight a war against countries with which Indian troops had no animosity. So on 4th October 1920, before I come to the manifesto of 1921, may I mention that 1920, when the non-cooperation proposal was before the country, Abbas Tyabji presided over a conference in Gujarat, a political conference in Gujarat in August 1920, in which the conference backed non-cooperation even before the Congress had formally adopted non-cooperation. So Gandhiji always referred to this as something which, whenever the question of non-cooperation came up, he would recall that in fact the Gujarat, in a conference presided over by Abbas Tyabji, had adopted non-cooperation, backed non-cooperation, even before the Congress had formally adopted it, which came later in September 1920 and in September 1920 at Calcutta and December 1920 in Nagpur. Now, so Abbas Tyabji had a major role, a central role in the whole question of the country opting for non-cooperation. Now let me just say a bit about non-cooperation, because there is non-cooperation is distinct from civil disobedience. Non-cooperation means that you do not cooperate with the government, you do not give your support to the government, you do not enter into the employment of the government, you do not send your kids to government schools, you do not enter the service, the military and civil service of the Raj. Now, non-cooperation can therefore theoretically be done by anyone. It can be universal theoretically all over the country. It can have wide involvement. And it can, as Gandhiji used to say, paralyze the government, because the whole logic of non-cooperation was that there are about 2 lakh British rulers who are ruling over 300 million of us. And they are able to rule over us only because we are cooperating with their rule. So if we non-cooperate, it would gradually bring their rule to grinding halt. So that is the logic of non-cooperation. And that is the logic that Abbas Tyabji turns to. And in fact, Gujarat therefore adopts it even before the rest of the country has done so. There was another case of a conference in Bihar which had similarly adopted non-cooperation. So, in the course of non-cooperation, civil disobedience, by the way, is a slightly different matter. Civil disobedience is when you choose a few laws specifically to defy, and then be prepared to go to prison to face the consequences of that defiance. It may be confiscation of property, it may be going to prison, it may be getting shot, and so on. Abbas Tyabji, as I tried to show in my lecture, had a crucial place in the adoption of both non-cooperation and civil disobedience. I'll come to that in a short while. So after the Chauri Chaura incident in UP in 1922, when police station was set on fire by some persons, and Gandhiji withdrew a civil disobedience that was being planned in Bardoli and another district in Andhra. So he suspended it, saying that we are not yet ready for civil disobedience. But he didn't withdraw non-cooperation. Although there's confusion about this, but this should be clear, that civil disobedience was suspended, but non-cooperation was not. And the debate on non-cooperation continued. So in 1923, when this calendar was prepared, by that time Gandhiji was in prison. And Abbas Tyabji was one of the leading figures in India, along with C. Rajagopalachari and others, who were arguing for continuation of non-cooperation. And there were some people known as the no-changers, and there were some people known as the pro-changers. The no-changers were the ones who wanted to continue with non-cooperation, and the pro-changers were the ones who said, let's modify the policy of non-cooperation. But Gandhi was in prison, and non-cooperation ultimately was modified only when he came out of prison in 1924. So in 1923, when this calendar is prepared, Abbas Tyabji is one of the leading figures who is arguing for continuation of the non-cooperation policy. And in fact, some people are also thinking of going ahead with civil disobedience. And Borsad saw civil disobedience during this period. That there was a civil disobedience movement in Borsad against police action in Borsad. So, next slide. Now, this again is the family of Abbas Tyabji. This is his father, and this is his grandfather Tayyab Ali, who came and settled in Cambay and Bombay. Sripanna, can we move on? This is, again, you have a photograph of Sharifa playing the veena, and on the side, now this is again Baroda. This is again, thank you very much. This is great. Thank you. I think now this might be better. So this is in Baroda, and you have Sharifa playing the veena there, and you have all three daughters, Rehana, Sohela, Sharifa, sitting there with their teacher. They were learning Hindustani vocal music, and their teacher, Bhau Nigoshkar, well-known figure in Baroda. So this is when they were in Baroda in 1910s and 1920s. We don't know if this site can be identified. Maybe some of you will be in a position to say where this may have been. Can we move forward? Now, I mentioned non-cooperation. 1924, Abbas Tyabji, Mahatma Gandhi comes out of prison in 1924, and By this time, he's 70 years old. Yeah, he was born on 1st February 1854, and in 1924, he is 70 years old. And there was this big celebration in Baroda, in all of Gujarat actually, of his birthday. So this is a scene from that celebration. You find his picture on top, on the left side, on top, and there is another picture there that's unclear. It's possibly him with Gandhiji. But this picture is interesting because this shows how he looked already in 1924. And there is some scene that is being enacted here, and this is exactly now 2024 is 100 years later that we are recalling Abbas Tyabji in Baroda. So there is something very fitting about this photograph. Come. Now, this is something very interesting. You see Abbas Tyabji here. In the course of the non-cooperation movement, Abbas Tyabji led the bonfire of foreign cloth in Baroda. The foreign cloth was gathered together and burnt in Baroda, and his daughter Suhela recalls that the bullock cart arrived at their home to collect together all the foreign garments, and Abbas Tyabji led that by setting an example. So his own choga, his own foreign cloth chogas and everything were given away, and Suhela's own, as Suhela was a child, her own favorite caps made of silk and whatever her favorite caps and clothes were, all the foreign linen was given away. And this whole movement represented a transformation in the lives of many people, including that of Abbas Tyabji. This transformation has been described by Abbas Tyabji in a very interesting letter, which I will read out to you. So that letter is there. It's an article by Gandhiji in which he quotes that letter. Now, this is that picture of Abbas Tyabji with peasants, with ordinary workers, with people, with the ordinary people. So by this time, his whole lifestyle has changed from a loyalist of the Raj to a person who stands with the peasants. Now I'll just pause here to read out this letter because I think you should hear it. This is what Gandhi has written in Young India in 1921. This is soon after this bonfire. He says, everyone knows Mr. Abbas Tyabji. Ever since his labors on the Congress Committee's Punjab report, which I just mentioned to you, Mr. Abbas has been doing some service or other to the country, but non-cooperation has revolutionized his life as it has many other lives. Mr. Abbas, though old, is now working day and night in Kheda in order to finish its part of the Bezwada program. Bezwada was what Vijayawada was called at that time. So there had been a session of the Congress where certain decisions had been taken, constructive program, civil disobedience and so on. So Abbas Tyabji was preparing the country for that kind of civil disobedience program. So Gandhiji says Mr. Abbas, though old, is now working night and day in Kheda in order to finish its part of the Bezwada program. He is not used to the strenuous life of the peasant. And yet, he is at the present moment engaged in mixing with the simple farmers of Khera on their own terms. Young friends working with him tell me that he is beating every one of them in energy and application. I am sure the reader will appreciate the following from a letter which he wrote to me in reply to mine, betraying anxiety about his health. This is what Abbas Tyabji says. This is now I'm reading Abbas Tyabji's letter. I assure you, you need not have the slightest anxiety about my health. I have not been healthier for many years. In fact, the khaddar adopted at Bezwara, that is Vijayawada, has simply made me 20 years younger. What an experience I am having. Everywhere I am received most cordially and affectionately, even by the women of the villages. Most of the places visited by me have subscribed twice or thrice their quota, that is the quota for khadi, a spinning cloth. It is only the big towns like Anand and Nadiad that lag behind. But Nadiad, where I have already spent 4 days, is coming up, and I feel that it will make up its quota, if indeed it does not even go beyond it. Today I am going to Kaparwat, and I shall continue to pass my nights at Nadiad, otherwise the good friends will go to sleep. Some of our workers are lacking go. I suppose they represent the very respectable class to which I have ceased to belong. God, what an experience! I have so much love and affection from the common folk to whom it is now an honor to belong. It is this fakir's dress. It is this fakir's dress that has broken down all barriers. And now men and women meet me as I would have them meet. If one had only known years ago how the feta, the sava and the angarkha, boots and stockings separated one from one's poorer brethren, how so dressed it was impossible to get them to confide in one, is what I realize only now. How much I have missed in life is just dawning on me. How much the movement has affected the course of my life is only dimly perceptible to me. Still, I do perceive it, which is what counts. To realize what pleasure there is in giving is also a fresh experience. So this is the transformation that Abbas Tyabji goes through as a result of this. So can we go to the next? Now you see him sitting here with a big charkha. He's sitting on the ground, and he is sitting with this charkha. This is Baroda with his family and friends. His wife Amina is behind him, standing behind him, wearing spectacles. And she was also in the freedom movement, as I said. And can we, to the left of Amina is his daughter-in-law Akhtar, and standing next to her in the dark sari is Abbas and Amina Tyabji's eldest daughter, Sharifa. She's in a black sari. This is him. You see the Gandhi caps, even in the children, they're wearing those, the boys wearing the Gandhi cap. And this is the family and friends getting together. So this is a new life that he adopts with the freedom movement. Next. This is again, this is in Masuri actually, when his daughter Sohela gets engaged to Muhammad Habib, who was a famous historian, later taught at Aligarh. This is that photograph. Next. This is, where he had moved to, first to a place called Barloganj, not moved, but he had taken up a place called a cottage in Baroda, which is a little below Mussoorie, around 1918 or so, for reasons of Amina's health. But later he bought this estate, Southwood, which is just below the. If you've been to the Mussoorie, this is just below the library. So this is a picture from Southwood, where he's sitting. It's obviously winter. And this photograph is from Salim Ali, the the ornithologist, who was Abbas Tyabji's nephew. So this that book which Salim Ali wrote, Fall of the Sparrow, this picture is from there. Can we go to the next? This is in the during the Dandi March. Now, during the Dandi March, which took place in March 1930, that's again Abbas Tyabji's involvement with civil disobedience. That is, you choose to defy some specific laws and face the consequences of that defiance. Now, this is Gandhi with Abbas Tyabji. Gandhi was not keen on inviting Abbas Tyabji to participate in the march in view of his health and his age. But Abbas Tyabji rushed himself to participate in this march. So in the earlier part of the march, you have Abbas Tyabji here. Next slide. This is the same period. You have Abbas Tyabji sitting right at the extreme on that side. You have Kasturba next to him, and you have Amina is also in this photograph with spectacles next to Kasturba. On the right of Kasturba. Next slide. This is again a same occasion, I think. You have Abbas Tyabji at the extreme. You have Kasturba Gandhi on his right, and you have Amina also in the same photograph next to Kasturba. This is another picture, roughly the same period. Now the interesting lineup here is you have Abbas Tyabji sitting, and you have on his right you have Amina, and you have Acharya Kripalani standing at the back. Acharya Kripalani, who later becomes president of the Congress in the 1940s. And you have at the extreme right you have Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay. She was a freedom fighter, a socialist, and she worked for Crafts, and a famous figure in our history. So she's standing on, she was also active in the 1930 movement, so she is in this photograph. Now, this is 1934. It's Abbas Tyabji's birthday on 1st February. And Gandhiji has written a letter saying that Abbas Tyabji should live 100 years and so on. This is from a biography that was published in 1938. That is 2 years after Abbas Tyabji died. This biography was published. Can we just go back one step? Go back a little? All right. Okay, then carry on. I wanted to go to the Dharasana arrest of Abbas Tyabji. Maybe it comes after this? All right. Yeah. Now, this is another photograph. You have Kasturba, Kamala Devi, and Amina. There. This is a photograph which it's not clear when it was taken. It's obviously around the 1930 movement. It is probably around the time of the Dharasana raid, in which Abbas Tyabji plays a major role. We will come to that. Come next. There you see the car at the back. They had to go to raid the salt pans in Dharasana, And the question was whether to take the car or not. Come on. Now this is actually from the Indian Annual Register of 1930, Volume 1. The line here says Mahatma Gandhi arrested after midnight in his camp at Karadi under Regulation 25 1927. He was taken to Yaravna. Mr. Abbas Tyabji took the Mahatma's place. That is, when Mahatma Gandhi was arrested, he nominated Abbas Tyabji as the leader of the national movement, the civil disobedience movement that was on. And this letter to the Viceroy is very interesting. Here, the Mahatma writes to the Viceroy to say that we are planning this raid at the salt pans in Dharasna. This letter is 5th May 1930. He writes this letter before the letter is sent. Mahatma Gandhi is arrested. So then Abbas Tyabji, in his capacity as Mahatma Gandhi's successor, as the leader of the civil disobedience movement, sends this letter to the Viceroy. So this is the story of this letter. Come on, let's move. This is again from the Indian Annual Register. It is a report about Abbas Tyabji's arrest with 59 volunteers when they proceed to raid the salt pans at Dharasna. So this is that report. When he is arrested, then Sarojini Naidu takes over in the next dasta to raid the Dharasna pans. This Sarojini Naidu follows, and this is a photograph of Sarojini Naidu with Abbas Tyabji. Can we move? This is Abbas Tyabji was the center of social life in both Baroda and Mussoorie when they were there. And you find his family participating regular tableau plays, and there was a lot of fun, laughter, culture, music, side by side with all the struggles that were going on. So this is tableau in which scenes of the Mahabharata are enacted. Abbas Tyabji in this photograph here is playing Dhritarashtra. Abbas Tyabji is acting as Dhritarashtra. You see him with that white turban? He is acting as Dhritarashtra. And the daughter Rehana is Sri Krishna. And daughter-in-law Akhtar is Draupadi. And son-in-law Hamid Ali. And close associate in the next photograph play other characters from the epic. You know, that daughter Rehana is standing there with that turban. So you have some of these photographs. Can we move on? Now, this is a very poignant story. In 1990, I was leafing through the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi. And since I am from Dehradun and Mussoorie is so close by, we thought that there were so many letters in the collected works from Southwood, Mussoorie. So we thought, let's go and take a look at this place. So when we went there, Habib was also with me. When we went there, we found one caretaker there who told us that this house is about to be demolished. And we found these two paintings, first of Amina and the other of Abbas Tyabji wearing the Gandhi cap, lying on the floor of that house, that cottage. So anyway, we took these photographs. Now we do not know where these paintings have gone, but it tells the story of this legacy. This house had been, how this came to happen was that this house had been, after independence, dedicated to the nation by Sharifa, that is Abbas Tyabji's daughter, and son-in-law Hamid Ali. They dedicated it to the nation. At that time, the president was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. We persuaded them to keep a life interest. So they signed the deed, gifting it to the nation in memory of Abbas Tyabji. But it went into the hands of the government only in the 1970s, when both Sharifa and Hamid Ali had passed away. So then the CPWD started looking after the property on behalf of the President of India, and over the years they came to think that it was theirs. So they planned to demolish it and to set up their own buildings. Fortunately, the demolition was prevented by our protests, and the Uttarakhand freedom fighters also got interested, and they also joined in and put, and so the demolition could not take place. The house still stands, but all the furniture, curtains, cutlery with which it was donated, that has all disappeared. Next slide. Now there have been, for your further reading, there is this book on Abbas. I already introduced you to the book, earlier book by Kalyanji Mehta on Abbas Tyabji, which was written in 1938 in Gujarati. Kalyanji Mehta was himself a freedom fighter, and he settled down in Maroli Ashram in Surat, where he was associated with Mithu Petit. And this book is by Aparna Basu. It's a thin book published by the National Book Trust in 2007. And this book is by Rehana Tyabji herself. She got involved in the Hindustani movement and became very close to an institution called the Gandhi Hindustani Sahitya Sabha, which worked on the Hindi-Urdu mix. And Kaka Sahib Kalelkar was the head of that institution. So this book is addressed, it contains articles by Rehana addressed to Kaka Kalelkar, in which she recalls many Baroda. She relates to Kaka Kalelkar, where they lived in Baroda, how they lived, who they met, and all their experience. So this has been published from Vadodara by the Hindustani Prachar Sabha. Can we go on to the next? This is the Amina Tyabji Library Hall in Baroda, in Mughalwara, where we went today. It is in the MES, Muslim Education Society School, and this hall, this is their library hall, and they have this portrait of, this is named after Amina Tyabji. It's a girls' school, very active even today. And this portrait, as you can see on the right, on this side, is Amina Tyabji. Can we move on? There is, as you know, an Abbas Tyabji road in Baroda. Unfortunately, we could not find any road sign saying Abbas Tyabji Road. When we asked people, they said, yes, this is Abbas Tyabji Road. There is no sign. Look it up on Google. It's on Google. So, heritage has moved to Google sometimes. But we found this Friends Society Petit Library on that road. And if you look closely at under the blue board of Friends Society, next to it is the board about the Petit Library. But if you look at the address, below the blue board, it says Petit Library, Abbas Tyabji Road, Fatehganj, Vadodara. So there is still some remnant of evidence that this is Abbas Tyabji Road. And behind this road is, we were told, the place where Abbas Tyabji used to stay. Can we go to the next? This cottage belonged to the Azim Tyabji, who was active in the Muslim Education Society, which we just went to that slide. This belonged to him, and I believe it has now been disposed of. It's a house, we took this photograph just yesterday. This house has been disposed of, but the building still stands. And it's a large compound. I don't know what the plans are for this building, wherever it has been.
It's a heaty building now. He did. Please go check with it.
So let's move on. That's it. So this is the story of Abbas Tyabji. And there are a few things which in the process of the talk, if there is time, I can go into them. But I don't know if there is any time. No time? So I'll stop here. If there are any questions and answer questions, then we can look into that. Thank you. Thank you. Then let me just conclude by saying that to me, Abbas Tyabji represents the. Can you hear me? Yeah. Represents he runs a line through all the movements of freedom till 1936. That is, all the movements that took place, including the constructive work movements, because he's going around selling khadi cloths in the hot sun in the villages of Gujarat. He is also participating in looking after the affairs of the country in Burma. So he goes there. You know, non-cooperation had spread from Rangoon to Peshawar. That was the whole length and breadth of it was considered a massive movement after 1857, one of the largest movements which shook up the Raj. So from affairs of the Congress in Burma were also looked after by Abbas Tyabji. And he went there more than once. And one of his sons was actually in Rangoon and a member of the Legislative Assembly of Rangoon. Because at that time, Burma was administered along with the rest of India. Until the Government of India Act 1935, it was administered together.
So I think with this we conclude, and thank you, Mr. for delivering this fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Indeed. I think it's only prudent, and for some reason, I think we have been given the opportunity by Providence that some families of the Tyabji families actually have delivered Viraasat lectures for us. It started with Laila Tyabji about the arts, crafts, and all the things we are associated with it. We had last year Saman Abid talking about the letters which they had about letters from Lucknow, remember? And now we hear so much about the grand old man of Gujarat. So thank you again, sir, for coming all the way from New Delhi and delivering this lecture. I'm sure it will give us, the Barodians, a good pride of being, what Barodians actually didn't know. And really taking us through this history, which probably was the bridge between what happened now and exactly 100 years ago. So it's been 100 years, right? So when he was, I think, felicitated back in the Congress, so it was exactly when he was 70.
Yeah.
So and then he was made the head of the movement. So fortunately, it is so that it's 2024 and 100 years. So thank you again so very much. It only one quote from Kabir comes to my mind: "Man lago maro, aaj fakiri mein." I think this is where Tyabji probably got. It was never too late to change. Maybe with all his elitist background, he chose this life of sadgi, if I may say so, even at that age. So a big round of applause to the memory of the shadow Yamasi. So with this I conclude, and I can't say much, but we don't have much time. I believe many people must be having the match on their mind. So But we have to thank the people, obviously the friends of Heritage Trust. Some of you are represented also here. Thank you so much for being with us all the foreign events, all your logos and everything I get on to the left. But again, that apart, I think a special thanks to Sandhya Ven also for kind of coordinating this for on behalf of the Heritage Trust. Thank you, Sandhya. A lot for the family and all the friends. Mr. Nauriya, thank you for being here. I hope you know you're being taken care of. We Baroda. Last but not least, a token of appreciation from us for being here and visiting us. May I call upon Rati to come forward? Mr. Nauriya, please you can step back, please. A small token of appreciation from the Heritage Trust. With our treasurer, Thank you so much. So with this, we conclude this session. Thank you once again, all the participants here. May I also bring your attention that many of our publications are also here for you to view or for you to buy or have an interest. So they are all there at the end behind you. Please have a look. These are some of the publications which we have published, and we will be also publishing a few more. So do have a look. With that, I conclude today's session. And again, thank you, Sri Parna. She is, let me introduce again to Sri Parna. She is our program coordinator. She is the eye, hand, ears behind us. A big round of applause with now, I say. Thank you, Sri. So with this, we conclude, and please have a look at those books or things behind the two. And thank you so much.